After that, is it?
But he's running into it, but nobody will. And it's just, yeah, and I'm just on a rant because, you know, people that are fortunate enough to have jobs work and, you know, go to school and do work to have, and then and you just can't get any support. It's like working class people don't have any rights or any, I don't know. I'm just kind of appalled.
Yeah, it amazes me. Nobody will touch the elephant in the room.
Yeah, and
A
it's
lot.
not even, you know, it's not even difficult. It's just what normal people do. Normal thriving communities, that's what they do.
Have you noticed? I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, everywhere you drive, there's a help wanted sign.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I even drove by the, you know, I got my mom retired from the county nursing home, and sister works there now. And I was driving by there the other day. They even got help wanted signs outside. It's almost like nobody wants to work.
Hi, John.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Charlene, can you
Good.
tilt your
Screen.
computer? Because we can only see from your nose up.
Linda, there's something you have to learn about me.
You want,
Sometimes I do stuff with intention. It makes no sense to you. But yeah, so you just gotta, thanks for mentioning it, but
I could just barely see you, so that's okay.
yeah, you just have to.
Didn't we just talk about the elephant in the room?
I grabbed some ice water, so I missed that conversation. So let's see, what time is it? Okay. So Chris is not going to be here, but did everybody receive his policy copies? There were 3 pages.
Yep.
Okay, and then on the agenda, what I thought I'd do, what we could do tonight is wrap up the questions and get that moving. And then after that, we'll talk about the social media part of our city policy. So, John. Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Can you share the screen with the questions, just so we can zip through them? Because I think we've pretty much tackled them to what we want.
Yes, just a minute.
That's okay, take your time. I don't see Bob Ring on yet, so maybe he's not going to be here. And just so you know, Bill's feeling under the weather, so he's not going to be on tonight either.
Yeah, he sent a message in the chat.
Okay.
So let me see here. All right, so we want to finish these questions, and I apologize. I was supposed to update them with number 7 with Bob Ring's format, but let me just, I think, can you guys see those questions? I do want to ask, oh, wait a minute. Gary. Do we want to, how important is it for us to do you feel include the typical demographic questions? Is that meaningful for us? And if so, do you want me to just go through and include include those first? If and say if you feel comfortable. Did we get a consensus on that?
I thought we talked about it being very important so that we could filter things out by age group, demographic, gender, race, all that stuff, so that you could more filters to that. I thought we decided it was important.
Okay.
I could be by myself on that, but I thought maybe that's what we talked about.
Okay.
I agree. I think that's important. Just knowing the way someone answers a question, just being female or male, can make a difference.
Yep. Let me.
In that demographic, I wasn't sure if you're going to put it in a demographic or if it's actually embedded in the question. Charlene made a good point and had a good question a couple meetings ago about how long have you lived in Olean? And I'm not sure if that's in one of the questions or if that was a demographic question, but that's important too, because that could give you a lot of valuable information.
True.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So I will apologize to the group here. We finished up our semester this week, and I know I was supposed to probably get this all cleaned up, and so I do apologize to the group for that.
That's okay. We can just go through it again.
Yep.
The good news is I'm on summer vacation now, so.
Don't rub that in.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
So I won't have an excuse next time, but this last time. Okay. I guess what I would like to ask, I can get this cleaned up as soon as tomorrow, email it out to the group, but what is the strategy for implementing it or for distributing it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I was under the understanding that we had talked about taking a multifaceted approach.
Yep.
So if we could do email or put it on the website, doing it that way, physically taking it to neighborhoods and essentially door to door that way as well. Maybe even the city's Facebook page, like those types of avenues. But that was my understanding, is that was the approach we were going to take. Is that not correct, or is that still what we were going to do?
No, I think that's correct. I think we were also going to do like something at the farmer's market, possibly.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. That was
added.
brought up too. Yeah.
Direct, direct distribution.
And one of the areas I was going to do is take the questions to the warming house and the food pantry, because a lot of those folks don't have computers. Most of them don't buy the paper. And I know several of the people that work both places, and they could give them to them, and then I could go back and collect them. Or just spend some time there myself going through them. I think we have to be sensitive that, and I think someone had brought this up before, maybe Gary, that, not everybody has a computer, not everybody gets the newspaper.
Right.
So I think we have to be sensitive to those groups to just go to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had touched on that before.
Well, what about the various housing things that fall under the Olean Housing Authority, the various housing complexes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember Bill had touched on that. I know on Thursdays I go to the Spring Court and Alder Court and Aspen Manor. And I could definitely drop some surveys off there. I think across from the Alder Court where I go, which is mostly seniors, is the housing for families. And maybe, you know, just dropping off some there. The thing, my next question is, are we going to go individually and do this, or are we going to drop them off and then have a time frame to when either we pick them up or they send us back? I mean, how are we going to work that?
My personal thought with like the housing complexes, it's almost better to actually physically go and do the essentially the door to door type approach almost. If you just drop them off and leave them, you run the risk of not really getting that much of a return. And really that's in any neighborhood, honestly. If you just send
That's
it in
true.
the mail or, you know, drop it off and say, hey, we'll be by in a few days or we'll be by in a week. It becomes that back burner. It's not so important, you know, and, you know, especially with this time of year, you have, you know, getting ready to roll into summer and graduation and, you know, those types of things. If we just kind of drop it off and say, hey, we'll be back in a few days or we'll be back in a week, you run the risk of not really getting that great of a participation. So I think it would be better to actually attempt to complete it or hand it to them, let them complete it and take it back right at the same transaction, so to speak, the same interaction.
Mhm. How do people feel about maybe having a table for our Olean? I know different groups have tables, and when I've walked through before, they've done surveys or they've just add little questionnaires. Would that be something that we'd be interested in doing? Is maybe having a table with some clipboards and just ask folks if they're from Olean to just take a moment and, you know, a few minutes and fill them out?
That's
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is
It's a good suggestion.
definitely.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the, you know, places we can get the most volume of people.
Mhm.
But I think the farmer's market, I know that was on our list, is another good one. And maybe our local churches, you know, to work with our clergy and see if there's a way that we could hand those out to folks and then have them give them back to us.
I think several of them would probably be willing to kind of get involved with that and facilitate that. I know mine would, you know, and so that's something that's definitely a huge possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine would too. They're very community minded.
For the sake of, I guess there's the physical form. For the sake of implementing it on the city website, the social media, and through email, would it behoove us to set it up just something like this, then set it up in SurveyMonkey so we can provide a link and share it around and get feedback that way, but also then the physical forms with the direct distribution?
John, I thought we talked a little bit about, and correct me, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we talked about using SurveyMonkey, putting the link out, taking the physical forms out, getting them back, entering that data from the physical forms into SurveyMonkey, so that, because behind SurveyMonkey is all your analytics.
Right.
So that we're able to actually look at the analytics behind the scenes all together. So even with the physical forms that we hand out, coming back and entering them into SurveyMonkey so that we have all that data in one place. I thought we talked about that at one point. I thought we were good with that and agreed on that.
I didn't remember the discussion about entering the physical forms into SurveyMonkey. I have no problem with that. I know we didn't want to just go the route of the physical surveys.
Right. But I just thought that we would enter them in so that we would have all the analytics right there, because SurveyMonkey would do all the analytics for us.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, another place I was thinking is maybe schools, you know, like the high school, JCC. Because a lot of those folks, especially the ones that are getting ready to graduate, you know, they've been in our community quite a while. You know, they could probably give us a lot of feedback, the pros and cons of living here, and their feelings. And people going to JCC, they could, I'm sure they could give us a lot of feedback also. Is that something that you guys think would be useful?
You know,
Yeah,
Linda,
I thought we talked about Chris taking care of Bonas, and somebody else said that they had somebody who had connection at JCC where they could get the survey out.
the only thing that I would say is that the semester is coming to an end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know how,
Yeah, the one thing with JCC is I know they have summer programs, but I'm not sure if they're going to be on in person or on Zoom.
I think we may have luck, maybe Chris, you know, and maybe someone at JCC, and I've got contacts there too. Maybe sending it out via email, that might be the only way to really reach them. Not that not all faculty check their email, but maybe not all students, but it would be able to get some communication from them, right? Get some of them to complete the surveys.
Yeah, I think rolling into the end of the semester, that's probably a good thought process to blast it that way, as opposed to trying to physically, you know, be there, unless, you know, we have an in, like somebody like Chris that's going to be there physically that can kind of facilitate that.
Mhm.
When's Bona's graduation? Does anybody by chance know?
Next week's the finals. I was giving a lot of bonus students their shots today. So next week's the finals, and then after that is graduation. I didn't catch a date though.
Okay, so, you know, we really, besides building it in SurveyMonkey, it really shouldn't take all that much time. So if this gets drafted together, you know, say by tomorrow, I have time tomorrow morning to draft it together and I can email it out, but build it in SurveyMonkey and at least try to get it out to JCC and Bona's students. Kind of first, just because they're gonna be turning their attention away from us maybe in a short period of time here. So
Mhm.
as far as Linda, just to follow up, I don't know how things work. You know, obviously Michelle would be able to speak to the school district better. I do like the idea of going after, you know, seniors in high school and getting their opinions on things too. And the one thought that came to mind was the government class that under normal circumstances, the teacher would have his seniors come into our city council meetings and take notes, and we would have to sign off that they attended. And so it seemed like, you know, that might be a good point of contact to go through that, you know, that instructor, that teacher, and see if he could coordinate something with maybe the senior class or something.
And I can touch base with Phil Vecchio
Okay.
and ask, and we can do it that way.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, if we can get our copies out and then touch with some of these, you know, like the churches, the housing projects, the farmers market. And with the farmers market in Olean, we would just have to make sure we have a table, we have some clipboards and pens, and maybe one or two of us take turns, you know, just asking folks to take some time to fill them out. And I think hopefully, because a lot of people in Olean know us, So I think they'd be willing to take a few minutes to fill them out. Is that something that anybody, I mean, I wouldn't mind sitting at the table for a few hours. Is that something that anybody else would feel comfortable doing?
I indicated I'd do farmer's market.
Okay,
Yeah, I would have no problem doing Olean. And, you know, I would also have no problem reaching out to any of the Olean Housing Authority facilities or you know, different, you know, I know in tandem homes, some of them would be able to complete this versus others, but I wouldn't have a problem there either, reaching out to Mary and asking, you know, what would be the best way to gather this information from their side.
mhm,
I wouldn't have a problem sitting at Olean for a little while. And I obviously wouldn't have no problem going to any of the housing developments either.
mhm. Yeah, me too. Like I said, I go to Spring Court and Alder Court and Aspen Manor. I just think, you know, we just start by hitting the ones that we're comfortable with and see how that turns out and then move on from there.
Yeah, as long as scheduling allows, it doesn't matter. I mean, farmers market, Olean, neighborhood, doors, you know, whatever. As long as scheduling allows, I'm willing and able to sit where I need to sit and go where I need to go and talk to who I need to talk to. So
I'm on board as well.
yeah, so that's no issue at all for me.
I remember Bill Elio saying that he was doing Aspen Towers. Remember when he said that was going to be his future residence. So, you know, he can go on over there and, you know, with his clipboard and his pen and make it happen.
Yeah. So I have another question. Is there a group of families or individuals that we want to target? Like I know in my neighborhood, I have a lot of young couples that have just moved in and they've been here for about a year or so. Or do I want to target the people that have lived here for a while? Or are we trying to target a certain age group or a certain minority group? You know what I'm saying? I mean, are the people that we're trying to target? Like I don't know if I'd give my husband one to fill out.
Well, I thought we agreed when we had this discussion before that we would target everybody and filter all the information out as we felt appropriate. And, you know, if we wanted information on age ranges 25 to 30, we would be able to filter that information out.
Okay.
But to load as much data in the system as we possibly can, and then filter it out based on what we're actually looking for whatever topic we're actually talking about.
Okay.
I think personally, I think it's important not to necessarily target one demographic or age group because I think that personally, I think we're going to be surprised. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities that we weren't expecting in the answers. And then I think where we thought there would be similarities, there's going to be quite a few differences. Personally, I think I kind of think we're going to be, it's going to be interesting how the results end up showing up. Just based on conversations I've been having with people over the course of the last few weeks. Some of the conversations have almost been shocking. You just wouldn't expect that, a particular individual that you've known for X amount of years and, whatever the case may be, felt the way they felt. Like they finally feel safe to have the conversation with someone. And then they open up and start really telling you how they feel about certain aspects. And so I think it's going to be interesting, the results that we get. And I think it's important that we just allow, us to essentially get as much feedback from as many different people as possible.
Okay.
You guys make me think like sometimes I dream this stuff up. Like we talked about, I could swear we talked about some of this stuff. I'm like, we talked about this.
We have, but I feel like because we have been all over the place, we're coming back and doing just like a refresh.
Yeah.
So
I'm completely not crazy. Like I didn't wake up in the morning and say, I thought we talked about that, like we did at some point approach that topic, right?
And, you know, and I think it's good to ask the question again because things change and people come up with different ideas. For instance, another question I have, are we going to ask people to sign these? You know, or they don't have to sign
No.
them?
No.
Okay. That's something good to know.
I think it's safer to leave it. Well, I don't know if safer is the word, but I think people would feel safer.
Why not? Yeah.
You know, to give true and honest feedback if they're
Mhm.
not putting their name or not putting, you know, a signature on it. I think we'll get more honest answers.
Yep.
Because when,
And I think it's important to ask because I think we all need to be on the same page. with
yeah.
it.
Because if I do a survey sometimes for school and I have to put my name and where I teach, yeah, sometimes I just don't do it.
Well, it's sort of like those
For
professors
other
at
reasons,
college.
but
You have to critique them and you don't want to put your name on it. Right, John?
Right,
I remember doing that.
that's right. They don't do it electronic, or they do it electronically now, so you can't even try to match up handwriting. We obviously this is targeted, and I mean I'll type up a simple introduction just for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish here. Would we call this a city climate survey? Is that essentially what this is gauging? Is that a fair title? Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
And just say, you know, sponsored by the City of Olean Diversity and Inclusion Committee.
Yep.
Okay. And so kind of just leave it at that. And
Right.
so if this is not applicable, or maybe we have it structured to say, where do you reside or what is your zip code? And then if it's, I mean, how do you weed out someone who stumbles upon it and they take it, but they don't live in Olean, right? So our focus, correct me if I'm wrong, is those who reside in Olean. So do we have it where, you know, what is the zip code you live in? And then we can weed out anyone who's not in 14760.
I think the question that you asked is already on there, which is how long have you lived in Olean? And if they say never, you just kick their survey to the side.
Okay. And John, I know we've talked about this before with the questions. Are we going to do the, you know, 1 to 5, you know, least likely, most likely? Remember we talked about that the last time.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of anything else that we need to ask or get in place before we move on. Does anybody else have any questions of anything on the survey that, let's see, that you want to change or anything? I think it looks, you know, pretty straightforward.
No, I think that's fine. I think it'll, I like what Gary said. I do. I think it'll give us what we'll expect to see, we probably won't see, and what we don't expect to see, it'll hit us like a ton of bricks. So, you know, I think this will be really meaningful.
I think that's a good thing too, though, because I think sometimes even when our intentions are good and solid, sometimes our perspectives can cloud, you know, what's actually taking place. You know, even though you're moving with the best and most sincere intentions, you know, if everybody else has got a completely different mindset, then are you really doing anything positive? So I think it'll be really good to really that litmus test, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Well,
I think it'll help us determine, you know, if we're heading in the right direction on different aspects of life in Olean. and hopefully people are straight and honest with us. And I mean, some people will just fill it out and be as nasty as they want to be. That's the nature of the game. But I think most people hopefully will be pretty honest with us.
Well, I'm happy to check this off the box of things that we've got done and getting ready to roll out. And I think it'll be positive. And I hope that the city actually can use the data that we gain, not only for the stuff that we're going to use it for, but maybe some future planning in other places too. So, and maybe it can be a twofold data set that they can use.
Oh, that's a good point, Dan. An initiative that we're trying to bring forward to the Common Council right now is to look at our the city's comprehensive strategic plan. And so it was done in 2005. So you're supposed to have this plan updated. I mean, it's supposed to be your blueprint for how the city is organized and how the city, what projects you undertake and where you put your attention. And it's part of rebranding our community. So I think this is valuable information that we can't just sit on it. We can't just go through all the effort of collecting the data and then not looking at how to apply the data. So
That's true.
That's
I think one of the things that I've learned over the years, like with the chamber or when we're recruiting, there's so many numbers that people look at. For instance, when you're recruiting somebody, you look at a 50-mile radius of people that may want to come into Olean to work. And you have to, and we worked with the chamber to do this, and we put together some questions that we asked folks. And it's the perception of people that don't live here, that come here to work, is sometimes it's right on and other times it's totally off. It's just, they're like in a different world. So we've done things in the past with the chamber, with some of the numbers they've collected, other companies, I don't know if Dresser was included, but I know Cutco, the Olean Medical Group, the hospital, larger companies were included with some of this data over the time. And that was actually put in as part of that comprehensive plan back in, we actually worked on it in 2003. So a lot of that data has totally changed since then. So John makes a good point. It's really outdated, and it should be updated more than every 20 years because our community changes. And as we know, I mean, look, we're losing Dresser. So that changes the dynamics over in North Olean. So it'll be interesting if and when we start the whole comprehensive plan, just the information you gather from others, it'll be interesting. And I think some of our numbers could be helpful.
If you're working off a plan that's over 24 months old, then you're working off an old plan that probably isn't even valid anymore.
Yep. So let's move on. The second thing on the agenda was to look at the social media policy for the city. And I think everybody got a copy of what Chris sent us. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the shared drive, yeah.
Now, I printed mine out, but the portion that was inserted into this was, let's see, 3 paragraphs down about the city of Olean has a zero tolerance policy regarding social media. And this is not in there currently. This is what would be. Verbal comments, bullying, comments, behavior, threatening language, or conduct perceived as threatening will not be tolerated. And then the next paragraph that was added, let's see, any comments or behavior which reflect negatively on the city of Olean as a whole will not be tolerated. The city of Olean has an intentional goal to respect the diversity of our community. Defining standards of conduct is intended to reflect that goal as a demonstration of our commitment to embrace our diverse community. That is what was added. So do we have any, comments or how anyone feels about those two paragraphs that were added?
No, I think they're fully appropriate. Charlene, I got to see what you wrote. Thanks. I mean, I got a message. I got to see what you updated. I think a lot of that was you. So I appreciate it.
I added something as well. But I didn't know, sorry, I'm looking at it on my phone.
You guys want me to
That's
share
okay.
do you want me to share my screen and have it pulled up here or no?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, if you
Yep.
can, because the update I'm showing, I'm not showing all the updates that I saw over the course of the last week.
All right, well, this is what's in the file, so. So employee social media policy. So we've got a draft here as a condition of employment. So you added this, Michelle? Is this one of the first things you added?
I think Charlene may have added that first one, and I was just saying I agreed with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I added something down below, but I didn't know if it should go in that spot or if I felt like it should be in the document, but just
Mm-hmm.
not sure if that was the right place for it.
Man, I don't feel like I got all these updates, but that's all right. I like that.
Employees are reminded to exercise good judgment and demonstrate personal accountability when choosing to participate in social networking sites.
And it can be reworded, or like we can rework it, or if we don't feel it needs to be there. I just thought maybe we should put that.
Yeah, I agree that it should be in there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that should be kind of right up with the personal responsibilities and ethics when using social media in 3.2.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like it's right around the same place. It just needs to be added to that section.
Well, I kind of like it there primarily because the paragraph before it talks about employees being personally responsible for the content that they publish on blogs, blah, 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 blah. And so I think having Michelle's comments follow that, keep it close to, if you say the things that, inappropriate things, you're subject to disciplinary action. So it kind of connects the two, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I definitely think it should go with that. Yeah.
I'm just reading through this. I didn't see this one. I guess I didn't get the latest updates, and that's all right. I like that right there where it's at.
Yeah.
What did you just type in there, John? I'm sorry.
No, with regards to the disciplinary process, I just put in there a note. Obviously, this entire document will have to be reviewed by the city attorney for advice as well. Anytime there's anything to do with disciplinary action, I just would want the city attorney to weigh in on what does that process look like.
Well, and any unions that they have will need to weigh in also.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep, agreed.
So can I just say how I'd like that? So I'm thinking city employees that use social media to engage in any activity that does not meet the level of expectation of the city. Let me see, that does to engage in any activity that is slanderous to any person will be subject to the disciplinary process.
With that, Charlene, would it add to it where it says slander any person slash group?
Probably
And-
any group is better.
Yeah, and could you put something to the effect of, if it negatively reflects on the city? Because it may not actually be slanderous towards a person or group, but it still might
Right.
be behavior that reflects negatively upon the city.
And that the part that I read, let's see, it had any comments or behavior which reflect negatively on the city of Olean as a whole will not be tolerated. Is that in,
I don't see that on this one. That's
what I'm looking for that. I don't see it.
yeah, I have the one from Chris that has those 2 paragraphs I read.
Yeah, where is, oh,
yeah,
that's
because
not.
I like those paragraphs. I just don't see them on here.
Yeah, it's under City Seals, City of Olean Statement for Recruitment Process.
Mhm.
Oh, is that on the recruiting doc and not the social media doc?
It might be. That's the one that Chris sent us. That's the one I
So-
read.
Yeah, there
When
was
you click
there
that
was-
link, there's 3 different documents that you can
Yeah.
access.
Right.
So you should have accessed the middle one. And what happens is once somebody edits it, once you edit the document and you close it, it saves it. So then we all could have had a chance to go in and like edit the document. And that's why I did my name behind mine. So like everybody
Oh.
knew that was my comment that I put in.
Yeah, it's on the
Okay.
recruiting doc. It's 2 paragraphs on the recruiting doc on the first page
Right,
in red.
that's
Can
what
we-
that is.
Can we plunk them 2 paragraphs down in this policy? I mean, in this procedure? Because I don't think we're gonna give the common council 3 procedures, right? We're gonna give them 1. Am I right or am I wrong?
Why can't they get 3?
I expect just I would expect a social media policy. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute here.
I was trying to update it on my phone. My phone's not working with me. I was trying to put it in the document so we could move it around.
Because I thought that we agreed, and maybe this is me dreaming again. I thought that we agreed that we would give them a social media policy within 2 weeks, which is today. And then that we would continually work on the other policies as we moved along. Outside of the meeting, we would continually update the policies as we moved along and continually hand them new ones. And the social media policy was going to be the first one.
Right.
Yeah,
If
I
I'm-
don't think it got
one.
updated to the wrong. I mean, we can edit
Maybe,
the document.
maybe I interpreted that wrong. Because Chris brought up another policy that I think that we didn't have, or if we did have it, it was outdated. And I can't.
He
I hate-
did say he sent us the wrong one. So he said
And
he
he-
apologized for sending us the wrong one. And then he
And
sent
then
another
resent
one.
it.
Yeah, but we had, when we first started this, we started talking about various policies. We started talking about recruiting. We started talking about the harassment policy. So these are things that we had started working on, which is probably
Mhm.
why they were in the drive is all.
Right.
That
Right.
was it. Chris said that we had a harassment policy, but we were missing some pieces for other groups, I think. And that was going to be the next one that we tackled after the social media policy. We were going to hand that one over to the common council when we were done with that. That's how I interpreted the conversation, but
No, I
I-
think the social
that-
media one was number 1.
Right.
So you're suggesting you guys is it this part in red that is on the recruitment process to put that into the social media policy? Is that
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that fall under purpose? Let's see, definitions, guidelines, or is that kind of a good thing for closing? The compliance side. Any thoughts?
Linda, can you read that again?
Well, or John, just go back to it so we can read it.
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is focused on social media.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where it goes.
What we could do is give this to our city attorney and have him give us some feedback on where he thinks it should go.
I
I was
would,
gonna
No.
say, it could possibly go
No.
under compliance.
Yeah,
Michelle,
I'm thinking compliance. I don't think I think the city attorney should review anything before we make it public, but I don't,
We shouldn't ask his input where it should go. I think it should fall under compliance.
Okay,
Michelle.
I'm fine with that.
I was about to say the same thing. I think that's definitely compliance.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Without.
Because it has to do with here, right? It says, it talks about not complying with these policies,
Right.
being subject to disciplinary action consistent with personnel regulations.
Mhm.
So this even kind of ties together with the area.
Kind of ties together with the area that Charlene and Michelle were working on earlier.
Right.
And then that it sums it up down there in the compliance area to make it even have more teeth.
Right.
Mhm.
So possibly. Right, because this talks about really the expectations, the responsibility of using social media. So any deviation from that falls down into the compliance. So, to identify any failure to abide, blah, 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 is going to, I don't know. So part of me might, I don't know. Well, I guess it talks about disciplinary action. I'm okay. I'm sorry that I'm jumping around. So here's under the compliance. So it just outlines again, zero tolerance policy.
No, I think it's perfect there.
well,
Yep.
I just want to make a comment, and this is just a Charlene thing. I think that we need to utilize the city attorney to review our language to make sure we're not going to get ourselves, get city of Olean sued for, any missteps, but I don't feel that he or she, and I don't know if it's a man or a woman, doesn't matter to me. I don't want to be feeling like they're critiquing what we created to tell us whether or not it's okay. We know what's okay. We just need that person to make sure we're not going to create any liability by, our wording. But
I
Yeah.
definitely agree with Charlene. I wanted to make a statement to that when you brought up, reviewing it with him, and getting his perspective. His response to the incident that spawned this entire conversation. I want to make sure that, personal opinion and agenda doesn't cloud the direction that we're trying to move in this. I think that's very important, because that would defeat the purpose of what we're attempting to do. So I definitely agree with Charlene and want to echo that as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think when we give the city attorney something, it should be what we consider a final project, and he should be able to touch it up, and then we should be able to move on. He shouldn't change the intent of what we're doing. He should
I was
just be,
gonna say, he should just
Like-
give us if we need to change some type of wording and let us.
Yeah, like
Let us
Charlene
do
was
it,
saying, the
yes.
language.
but not the intent of the policy. You
Right.
can't,
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't need to change anything. If something needs to be changed, it needs to come back to us. We rework it and then resubmit it.
Mhm.
And my only concern is, have any of us read all of the union contracts, right? And I haven't, so
Right,
that's my concern. That's where
But that's his job. That's where he comes in and
right.
can let us know.
agreed,
Yeah.
but when you start talking about, when we start establishing that reprimand or disciplinary action has to take place, that's where I want he has to be the one to read those contracts to know, does the city of Olean, does the common council have the ability to pass this, right? And allow, and there, let's be honest, I mean, this is today, I mean, this is a relatively new, although social media has been around for what, a decade, it's still relatively new. I mean, there's court cases all the time about, is it free? I just saw the other day about a girl got kicked off some athletic squad or something because she said this or that. And I mean,
Mhm.
freedom of speech versus, so this is a bit of, I wouldn't say uncharted waters, but it kind of is. And that was my only suggestion was, like you
And
said, I don't want us to get sued.
And I definitely understand that. And I mean, we have a responsibility as well to make sure that we're operating appropriately. I just think that in what I've noticed historically is the word union comes up and Olean puts its tails between its legs. And I don't think that should be the case. Number one. Number two, again, the response to the incident that caused this it was very lackluster and insensitive. And I just want to ensure that the intent of what we're doing isn't compromised. Completely understand for, having to operate based on, contracts and agreements and legalities, and completely understand that. And being able to protect parties involved. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is to protect individuals.
Mhm.
But I just, my concern is that the intent behind what we're doing isn't just the word union gets thrown around and all of a sudden, oh, we can't do this because of the union. Well, if that's going to be the type of response, then I want to see line on line, precept on precept, why we can't do XYZ.
It might even be beneficial, Linda, maybe you could comment because you've had prior dealings. Yeah, maybe this might even be better to run it past our labor attorney. Obviously, our labor attorney would be the
Yeah.
one to know the ins and outs of our contract, our union
Okay.
contracts, more so than the city attorney. So this
Oh,
might,
definitely. I think Joe Bracchio, he could read it and tell you, because he knows all the contracts inside and out. He's done them for years. And yeah, that's a good point. I think our city attorney, he's not, and he just started, so I'm not sure if he's going to be in on negotiations or anything. He has been connected to the city in the past, but I think that's a good point to pass it, in front of Joe Bracchio and get his input, because he can tell you just by reading it if it's going to, and the flip side of that is, I think we have to not be afraid of the unions. I think some of the people in these unions probably feel some of this, that they've been belittled or people are bullied and nobody's done anything. So, maybe we're assuming something that's not, totally there, but I think Joe's the person that we should put it
And
to.
I think that with, in saying that, like you just said, it might be welcomed. I think that just because, it comes back and it's like, well, because of the contract, and here's what it says in the contract, XYZ, so the verbiage needs to change. That doesn't change the intent of what we're doing. That changes the verbiage. And I get that 110%. And that's where my concern is. I don't want our intent to change. I'm good if, like Charlene brought up, if language has to change,
Correct.
if we have to shift and adjust different things, and because we do, we got to work with the unions, we got to work with city employees, we got to work with each other. It's our job to ultimately, make this happen. I don't want us to be a committee with no teeth. I don't want us to be a committee that we meet every 2 weeks and we talk and talk and talk, but we don't facilitate real change. And we have an opportunity here to really make a difference. And I just don't want it to lose its intent. That's just a fear of mine. And I see, time and time again, in reference to various things, hesitation to answer questions from even department heads and et cetera. And when you have that type of atmosphere, you start to wonder, okay, are we losing the intent? I don't want us to lose our intent.
And I agree with everything, and I agree with what everybody's saying. Linda, I think you're right. It probably needs to go to the labor attorney and not the city attorney. But I leave that up to you and John to, that's your guys' call, right? But I'm with everybody else. Let's keep the intent, change the verbiage if we have to, but keep the intent. And I think we have a good product here. I think we should present it and see what we get back. And if we have to change some verbiage, we'll change some verbiage. But at the end of the day, I think we have a good product.
And I just think we have to stress the point, we're really doing a disservice to our city employees and to our city not having a more update reference to social media, because it has been around and we've been lax on it. And I think more people will welcome it than we think. So I would, what I would like to do, maybe John and I can sit down and Bill will have a schedule when Joe is going to be in town, and we can just either email it to him or give it to him when he's here and have it down and talk to him. His job that's his job. And I think he will be very honest with us. He's not going to change it.
I think you guys should email it to him and try to get some feedback sooner rather than later. I mean, we always talk about sooner rather than later and getting things accomplished. Because my thought is that once we ship this off to you guys, we're on to working on the next one, right? So this lets us know what process we're gonna be under as a committee and how long things are gonna take, to get done as a committee, and what that process looks like for the city. So I mean, if we gotta wait for him to come down, or we gotta wait for him to sit down at the table and have feedback, I mean, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, no, I think we can get his email from Michiko. He works for the city. That doesn't just mean he works for the mayor. He works for us too. We have to approve those contracts. And, he has come and spoke with the council on different issues. So I'm sure he'd be more than willing to.
We pay his rate. So at the end of the day, we pay his rate. So.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I'm pretty sure he's not going to review it for free. I'm pretty sure you guys will get a bill. So.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's okay.
And I'm pretty sure after Kevin fiasco, the mayor can't not want this policy, right?
I think so. I think the department heads do, and I think other people that were disgusted with what he said, they would welcome this. It puts these people on notice. And it's not everybody that goes out and makes these ridiculous and insensitive comments on social media. But if you show that, you're trying to fix it with the city employees, then I think it's going to send a message to other people not to do it.
Well, and let's not forget too, like half of the reason that we're sitting here is because we need to update policies. That's half of the intent of this committee is to update. So we, whatever process that looks like, we need to know what that process is. So this is going to teach us what that process is.
Linda, maybe if you want to, it might be beneficial to even reach out and look at what NICOM has to offer on social media policies. Again, that's an organization that is usually pretty good at leading the charge on things like this. Just to see what feedback they are providing municipalities that are trying to install social media policy. Just as far as be aware of this or that. But I think this draft looks as good as any. I mean, I appreciate Chris and Charlene and Michelle, putting the time into it. And what we can do is get the labor attorney's email address and send it off to him for his comment, for him to at least review it.
Right. And we could always email or call, like Wade, one of the NICOM attorneys. He's really good about getting right back to us and sending us things. So I could contact him and see if he has any templates or anything that other communities have done that may not be something we've included.
So let me just ask the question. For our next policy, would it be more productive as a committee to have this background research, NICOM and all that stuff at our fingertips before we actually sit down to write the procedures? Like what does NICOM suggest for these particular things? So that when we go to write it, we're actually including it and taking their advice instead of like writing it and then going to NICOM and what they say, and then coming back to the attorney and then going back to us. It just seems like they're and we're all learning together here, but it just seems like in my head there's a much more straight lined approach to take.
Well, I feel like that's a good idea with NICOM and other people coming in, because I looked at like a school social media policy, and it's way more in depth than what we've done. So I guess to ask them, that way we make sure we cover everything, because there's so many different things that you can touch on. That way we're making sure we have everything we want in this policy, so that there can't be any ways to, well, they didn't do this because it doesn't say this, or like that way all of our bases are covered.
Right.
When I was,
I think that, we can't, we talk about, straight line and, oh, should we have done this and should we have done that? Well, it's a process that we're learning. So going forward, then we can reach out to these resources. I mean, if you knew they were available and didn't bring it up prior to this, then I would ask why. But as we talk about,
I just don't think it was thought about.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously we're all learning this process and things are coming to mind, and hey, so we know when we approach the next one we can do this. But I agree, it makes sense to look at these other avenues. Like Michelle said, you look at other social media policies and they can be crazy in depth. I mean,
there's a ton,
very detailed, very depending on the company. I mean, you look at various companies, and then you have other companies where the social media policy is a paragraph long, and basically it's don't be nasty on social media. Like that's the extent of it, in some of these companies. And so I think going forward we pull as many resources prior to this as we can. But at the stage that we're at, until we can add that to the toolbox, it's kind of like you don't need you need a tool until you know you need a tool, and then once you need that tool, you go buy it. Now I have it for every other time that I need that tool, and I think that's what we just did. We just added a tool to the toolbox.
And when I sent that social media policy out, and I was looking at different social media policies for cities, I said at that point I've sent the most bare bones one I could find.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were 3 pages long. Some of them were 1 page long, and some of them were a couple pages long. But, I think you got to start at the bones in order to get to where we wanted to go, I guess. was kind of how I thought about it. But you know, hey, I'm happy to know that next time we'll pull our resources together and we won't have to take a left and then a right. We'll just do it all at once.
Yeah, and if you recall, whenever we brought something up, Bill has mentioned Nikon because he's on the board.
Right, I didn't know
so-
that was like a resource that was like readily available to like.
Oh, yeah.
We could just.
Yep. Let's see, there's different committees. John's putting it on the screen right now.
Well, and I'm pretty sure when we're done with our next policy, we're gonna find something else that we say, oh yeah, we could have used this, or you know,
Mhm.
early. And then we'll put, like Gary said, we'll put that in our toolbox for next time. And we'll just keep stacking our toolbox. And as we go through these policies, hopefully that line just keeps getting straighter and straighter and straighter for us.
So, I mean, there are areas that, you know, we can reach out to, from community revitalization, energy, employee relations. In fact, Mayor Aleo is the chair of that committee, and finance. And so these are areas where, you know, their job is to come up with policies and create those types of things for cities and villages and make recommendations. And so what I want to do is I want to follow up to see, do you have to be an elected official? I don't think so, Linda. I mean, couldn't the members of this committee gain access as it's an official city committee, or an official city committee?
I've always thought it's been elected officials,
Oh,
like, or people that work for the city, like our city attorney, our
Yeah.
city auditor, you know, they go and they're, because we pay to belong to them. And I'm pretty sure it's city officials, but we could check and see,
Doesn't hurt
like I
that.
said, one of the attorneys, either Barb or Wade, as a committee, if we could, you know, just kind of ask questions with one of them.
okay. I mean, I think
Okay.
like the example you guys gave, being a tool chest. I think there are resources that we could reach out to NICOM for. Oftentimes what I've learned with NICOM is they'll never tell us to do this or that, right? They always kind of leave it open-ended, but they might have resources that we can use going forward to help us
Yeah.
address.
The one thing I learned about NICOM, the big thing is they don't want to step on anybody's toes. Like in the past, I've known some aldermen that have contacted NICOM for legal advice, and they will give you some suggestions, but your city attorney gets the same email. So they don't want to step on anybody's toes within the municipality. I've learned that from the past. The other thing is they have different videos and learning tools that they put out every now and then on different topics, and maybe they have one on social media. We could check to see if they have something. I know Bill's on the board, but I don't know how deep he goes into, you know, what's available.
Excuse me.
So Linda, can I ask a favor of you?
Mhm.
Can you create a list of potential resources that we can reference as we're going along?
You mean like NICOM?
Yeah, like NICOM or whoever.
The labor attorney, NICOM.
Yeah, the labor attorney. Yeah.
Joe?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll think about some of the other folks, and John, I'm sure, can think about some too. But yeah, but I think for this policy, I think it's a good idea. Our labor attorney, check it out. And then, as you said, we can check with NICOM and see if there's something we're missing. Because if you look at other cities' policies, chances are they've done the same thing. They've gone through NICOM for a template of what it should say and what it shouldn't say. Because the folks that we work with at NICOM are all lawyers. You know, they just help us stay out of trouble.
And I believe the skeleton that we started with was from a city of like size of ours in New York
Mhm.
State. Can't remember exactly where, but it was from like size, New York State. So chances that they went through NICOM are probably pretty good. I wish Chris was here, and it's something that I gotta remember to ask him at the next meeting is a list of resources, because I know like even Bonaventure probably has resources that we can reach out to and learn from that. As we're writing these policies, we could probably learn a lot from.
True. Okay, so why don't we work on those things? We'll get the email for Joe Bracchio and get this off to him, and then we'll check with NICOM and see if they have a template that they've given other cities, if we're missing something or if there's something we need to add. And then we'll meet in 2 weeks. Let's see, that would be,
The 19th, I believe.
yep. So the 19th at 6:30, and hopefully we'll have some answers and feedback from Joe by then.
Can I throw something out just for us to be thinking about here in the near future? The part-time HR rep has not been hired yet, correct?
No.
Okay. I know that when we first started with this committee, we started talking about the recruiting and hiring process, trying to make sure that it was, pulling from a diverse pool. During that process, the whole police chief hiring appointment, whatever, took place the way that it did. And we had a couple nights where we had a discussion about, the level of involvement that maybe our committee should or should not have had, et cetera, et cetera. I would just like to throw out there that I think it would be important that we are involved in that whole recruiting and potential hire process of that HR rep going forward, that maybe we need to look at those recruiting and hiring policies after we finish this one and moving into that. So I just wanted to throw that out in the atmosphere for everyone to start thinking about.
Okay, well, the update from Bill was Civil Service was putting together a description of what we're looking for. So I think right now it's with them.
Okay.
And I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything other than that, John?
Okay.
So
No.
it's oh,
No, go ahead, Michelle.
no, I was just gonna ask, so they have to take the civil service test? Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And what we do,
A part-time employee.
yeah, because what happens is the civil service puts the description out, and then you put it out there, and then they have to put a test together, which could take some time. But in the meantime, if you interview and you find someone, you can hire them provisionally. So I think right now we're just waiting for civil service to put the description of the job. That was the last thing that Bill told us.
Okay.
So they have to take a civil service test for part-time employment, no benefits, no nothing. And you got to take your time to go take a civil service test. You're not offering benefits. There's no incentive there for you to sit there and take that test outside of a part-time job.
A lot of there's some positions in our school district that are the same exact way. And a lot of some of our teacher aides take the civil service test. They don't get benefits. So
I know you guys have no control over that. And so I'll just put it out there. And as Charlene says, this is a Charleneism, but this is a Gatenism. To me, that is.
Hey, listen, I didn't say I agreed with it. I'm just saying that's where we're at.
I didn't mean to open the can. I just wanted to.
Well, no, but it's like that in the school district too. And like it's.
That is so disincentivizing for anybody to want to work. You're not incentivizing anybody to apply for that job.
Well, that gives you something to work on, Danny. You take care of that.
That's just a Gatenism. It's civil service is civil service, but that just to me is just crazy, idiotic waste of money.
Well, I will check with Bill to see if there's any update on that, if he's heard anything back from civil service. We'll do the Joe Bracchio, we'll contact NICOM, and then we'll get you caught up on all of that the next meeting. Okay?
So when are you guys thinking that this is going to land at the Common Council's desk?
I'm sorry, Dan, what are we talking about, the social media policy?
Yeah, because you guys ain't gonna fix civil service. That's supposed to be.
Well, I mean, well, I didn't know if you were talking
Like
about
to.
hiring the part-time HR person. That, that's in the budget, so that's already a done deal. It's just a matter of when Bill can put, and civil service can do their thing.
Right.
I was circling back around to the social media policy. What we actually can get done soon.
So what would be helpful is, depending on how quickly we can, honestly, I would like to reach out for the labor attorney to proof it and check within the confines of our union contracts. Are we covered to pass this? And I don't know how quick he turns things around. I would hope this month. I mean, what we have looks pretty good to me, but I'm not a labor attorney, so I can't say, but
Right.
I guess I would ask this committee if he comes back next week with a change in verbiage that we have to utilize. Would it be okay for us to change that verbiage electronically and ship it back to you, and you guys ship it back to him and get a write-off on that verbiage and get it to the Common Council and not wait till the 19th?
I would say depending on what that verbiage is or how
Right.
that changes the document. If
Right.
that changes the intent or life of the document, then no, it would have to be something we discussed. That would be.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. But I was just talking about the actual verbiage. Like if there's just some little tweaks and some little stuff that needs to be changed. At any point, any of us can say, no, this changes the intent. We don't want to do this electronically. We have to meet on this, right?
I think
Mhm.
that's what Gary was saying, but if it's something like that's a bigger deal,
Sure.
then maybe we should
Then-
talk about it. But if it's a minor thing, yes,
Yeah.
I feel like that would be fine.
I just feel like we just keep.
You know what, Danny, I know you feel that way, but we want it done the right way and we want all bases covered because I don't want to hear, oh, yeah, well, according to your policy, we can't do anything to him because he said blah, 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 because in the policy it states. Like, that's what I want to avoid because I don't want to hear any excuses about, well,
And that
It's not in the
happens a lot.
policy.
That happens a lot. That
I
we
know.
can't do anything because the policy says X,
Yeah.
Y, Z. We can't
Right.
challenge this because of X, Y,
Right.
Z. The charter says this. The charter says that.
I've dealt with that a lot with like school and like, it's like, okay, so just to make sure all of our bases are covered so that
Mhm.
if something happens, there's no way for anybody to get an out.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
What they've
and
said.
when you're dealing with things that are going to affect people, good, bad, or indifferent with the decisions that are made, you can't rush through them, unfortunately.
And you
Well,
don't know what his schedule's like.
Hold on. We're definitely not rushing.
No. But we want to get it right. And so when we contact Joe, we'll hopefully get a time frame and ask him if there's anything other that we should be doing in the meantime. But I think, I'm not an attorney, but I think Joe knows our city. He knows the agreements that are there for different policies, and he's the guy that should be looking at it, and he might want to add more to it. You never know until you talk to him. So let us do that, and then I'll ask him for a time frame. If he says, well, this is going to take a couple weeks, or if this is going to take longer, then we'll go with that. But let us contact him and send this off to him and get his feedback.
All right.
Okay?
Good.
Okay, and if anything comes up between now and the 19th, we'll email you updates.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, guys. So have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank
You
you. Have a good
too.
night.